Certainly, this is no time for any of us to stop thinking about the social and economic problems, which are the root cause of the social revolution, which is today a supreme factor in the world. For there is nothing mysterious about the foundations of a healthy and of a strong democracy. The basic things expected by our people of their political and economic systems are simple. They are equality of opportunity for youth and for others, jobs for those who can work, security for those who need it, the ending of special privilege for the few, the preservation of civil liberties for all, the enjoyment of the fruits of scientific progress in a wider and constantly rising standard of living. So good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and to see you all again. And thanks for waving on the Zoom. It's just great to see everyone. So today's reflection on freedom will begin with yet more of Franklin D. Roosevelt's speech to Congress. In the future days, which we seek to make secure, we look forward to a world founded upon four essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want, which translated into world terms means economic understandings which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. So today's exploration is organized according to these four freedoms. So let us begin with the freedom of speech. Currently, the First Amendment is apparently good for some, but not for others. As you follow the news, our First Amendment rights are severely being curtailed today, as they also were in the past when citizens gathered against the mistreatment of others. Fear, intimidation, and incarceration are used daily to keep us from using our right to protest and assembly against the current injustices. However, it is only through vigorous and free discussion of facts and human values that the Unitarian pillar of transformation is practiced to change the system and adapt to the needs of the people. But instead, through targeted algorithms, the polarization of major news outlets, and the decline of local news reporting, our First Amendment is being exploited to spread ideas that may or may not be facts. We, the people, are being corralled into pens of belief that lead to votes and actions that ultimately harm all of us while favoring the wealthy. The use of propaganda to funnel public opinion isn't new, but the speed of algorithms sending information without human guardrails most certainly is. So what we need now is freedom from speech. The average adult now spends 2 hours a day on social media, ingesting words that are programmed to create fear, isolation, and mind-numbing inaction. And it is working. For teens, the 5 or more hours per day is so alarming, it should be treated as an epidemic. At a time when children are still growing in their brains, their time spent in the actual world with facts, feelings, smells, and touches now totals less than a half an hour per day, with fewer than 10 minutes of actual playing. How can we blame those kids or this generation for becoming what they are with this complete lack of societal goals for rearing healthy children? What has happened in the US is that everyone knows everything about everywhere, but no one really knows anything about what is happening where they actually live and to the people they actually know, breaking down the first UU pillar of interdependence. Information silos are the opposite. So, what can we do? Subscribe to independent journalism. Get the children outside. Get them Lincoln Logs, art supplies, and science kits for gifts. Befriend someone of a different generation to have real-time discussions. Start a book club. Go roller skating. Go outside your comfort zone and have conversations with people that you don't know. Teach the children cursive. Encourage the kids you know to do on-the-ground research, start a school or neighborhood newspaper, or become a pen pal. Paper and pen are difficult to censor and impossible to directly influence. So the next freedom to briefly touch on is freedom of religion. We, as Unitarian Universalists, already hold pluralism as one of our shared values and believe that all people should be able to practice freely the religion of their choice. Yet again, those in power quickly defined freedom of religion as freedom of my religion, not yours, as another tool to divide the people and consolidate power, such as the demonization of Islam to create fear so that people would support an increasing military budget. As we discussed last year, the Founding Fathers had clearly in mind the separation of church and state. What is between a person and their higher power should be supported on an individual and community level, and it should be kept there. Elevating one religion over another has no place in secular spaces, schools, government, or businesses that cater to the general public. Yes, a tombstone manufacturer should be able to carve a cross, but also a raven or Thor's hammer, as the customer chooses. I think honestly that tattoo artists have a pretty good grasp on freedom of religion. So what we really need now is freedom from religion. No Bibles verses in school, no references to God in any legal document. Return the Pledge of Allegiance to its original context. Many years ago, I bought house plans from an architect, and he had printed on them a fish and some Bible verse, and I immediately sent them back to him for revision. He was quite indignant, but I made my case. What if there's someone in the building department that is Jewish or atheist? You shouldn't put your personal beliefs on public documents. He argued, but I stood firm that religion has no place in a government office, and he revised the plans. So, as we make our daily choices, support removing religion from all aspects of secular life with your votes, your conversation, and from who you buy things. Today, however, it is FDR's freedom froms that I want to focus on, freedom from want and freedom from fear, which nowadays are heavily intertwined. Essentially, government in the United States in the form of the Constitution was created as the tool to realize our vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. After 250 years, how's that going? Can we have life without health? Can we have liberty without physical and economic mobility? And can we pursue happiness when we have to worry about being targeted by hate for who we love or our children being gunned down in school? Growing up, my children would roll their eyes and threaten to run away if I brought up the inequitable distribution of wealth one more time at the dinner table. But I couldn't help it. That is exactly what good government is for, to create policies for the wealth generated by the corporations that are using the masses for labor and consumption to form a balanced and symbiotic relationship. The American dream, a stable job, a healthy family, and a safe home. The corporations cannot survive without the people that fuel them. But in the 1980s, we began to lose our way. The masses were now considered burdens instead of partners in this system, and those in power decided we should be herded and directed instead of listened to and regarded. The people's needs gave way to the shareholders' needs. With social media, the American people have been persuaded into believing that the wealthy and powerful are somehow better and smarter and should make our decisions for us. So today, the rich get richer while the rest of us are struggling and distracted. Here, the Unitarian pillar of equity stands. Where, to whom, and what color we are born is just a matter of random chance, dumb luck, and yet the happenstance of our birth determines our ability to live a life free of want and fear. So looking at the cover photo on your order of service, that's an update to one of Norman Rockwell's Four Freedoms. If you're familiar with those paintings, they're pretty neat, and the updated versions are pretty cool too. So looking at our cover photo, being born Black in the US means being born in fear. From a Karen calling the cops or being shot while jogging to Black men being incarcerated at 5 times the rate of white men for the same crimes and being 3 times more likely to be killed by police, to currently the mass incarceration of people guilty only of being born brown, the fear that 40% of the people who are minorities in the US deal with on a daily basis is unfathomable and untenable. We already know that the prison system is for profit, so the goal is to fill them up. But in my research for today, I discovered that incarcerated people count for the US Census as being in the district of the prison instead of the prisoner's home, another benefit of mass incarceration in prisons built in certain districts. I can't help but think that this may also be another nefarious reason for building the for-profit detention centers and keeping people in them. Even if they may not be citizens and don't vote, their bodies can be used for more gerrymandering. And an important reminder is that the 13th Amendment allows for slavery of incarcerated bodies, which is the brutal reality of both prisons and internment camps. The fears are real. But when it comes to universal fear, a study done by J.G. Wentworth found that fully 95% of American households' fear is medical debt. And this is not unfounded, since medical bills are the main cause of bankruptcy, especially among seniors. The financial breaking point for most people in this study was less than $4,400. So for all of the people in the United States, only 5% go to bed without that fear. This particular fear could be alleviated by universal health care. This would also relieve the related fears of millions of people who don't look for a better job or attend a protest for fear of losing their job-dependent medical plan. These deliberate tools to keep Americans immobile and dependent go directly against our UU pillars of equity and generosity. It is fear that is both the weapon and the result of the current policies we have in place. So now, for a little different perspective on the subject, take a look at the back of your order of service today. On the top, you have an expanded view of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Now, this chart was introduced in the 1940s to explain the psychology of motivation. His theory explains how human motivation progresses from basic physiological needs to higher level growth needs. The first 4 are called the deficiency needs, where if you are not getting them, you will be motivated to get those satisfied. The top 4 are growth needs, which will allow you to fulfill your potential. The term hierarchy itself explains that without satisfying your basic needs, it is impossible to even try to fulfill your potential. So let's look at the base level. our physiological needs of air, water, and food, and add a few statistics. 44% of the US population breathes unhealthy air, or about 153 million people. 2.2 million people in the US live without basic indoor plumbing or running water. 44 million have shortages or water that is unsafe to drink. 48 million Americans, or about 1 in 7, don't have enough to eat, and 1 in 5 children go to bed hungry. Black and brown people, single mothers, and the elderly are twice as likely to suffer this lack of basic human needs. The second tier is safety. This includes shelter, employment, and laws that are fairly enforced. In the last 8 years, rent and mortgages have gone up about 35%, while wages have increased less than 4%. 800,000 people in the US are homeless, and AI threatens so many jobs. And it is glaringly obvious that the laws are not being fairly enforced. So the third and fourth tiers, while still in the deficiency category, go above the physical into the social. Humans and other animals need to have a sense of belonging and a sense of self. The love of family by blood or choice and having a purpose will allow us to grow. The statistics here are pretty grim as well, with 1 in 4 US adults reporting that they don't have adequate social or emotional support. Over 65 million Americans are silently struggling without someone that they feel safe talking to. Not only feeling lonely, about 40% of the people who actively seek clinical mental health can't get it, mainly because of the costs. As we move up the pyramid into growth, I see these as education, to gain independence, obtain knowledge, achieve potential, and then use our success to help others. Again, the current education system in the United States is not structured for equity, as we all know, so I won't elaborate other than to say that over 50% of American adults lack full literacy, while about 30% hold a bachelor's degree or higher. As you can imagine, the map of this educational gap can be overlain with poverty, race, and the Confederate States. As adults, we want our children to explore, have wonder, dream, and work to fulfill those dreams. The American dream, the human dream, with liberty and justice for all. How about food, homes, and medicine for all? Without those, how can we even begin to pursue the loftier goals of fulfillment and achievement? And it seems that the whole point of our sado-capitalistic machine is to intentionally keep most of us at the bottom so we cannot strive for economic or professional mobility or even to help others. This structure is as old as ice and exactly the opposite of what the founding fathers envisioned for a free and democratic society. It seems that the United States has always been on the precipice of achieving the goals both of freedom to and freedom from, but never quite getting there. It is our duty as Americans and as UUs to take action, large or small, to uphold the values we have and the pillars of our faith. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness require that all people are able to fulfill their basic needs so that they can achieve their beautiful human potential. And in developing this talk, I couldn't help but think of the chakra system when looking at Maslow's pyramid. And as you can see, the alignment of our motivational needs is almost identical to the energy centers that were defined as far back as 1500 BC. It seems the US is kind of stuck in the lowest chakras, pretty far from enlightenment. I can't dive into this right now, but please take time to look at this ancient wisdom. And as we near the end of my talk, I would love to know your thoughts on today's service, and let me know if you want to dive into any more of these topics more, and maybe other topics that you might like to explore for me or the worship team. So use the QR code on your order of service and let us know your thoughts. In closing, I quote Timothy Snyder from his book On Freedom. "We know the way back toward freedom, a reclamation of the future. We must restore social mobility and prevent the coming catastrophe. Both can be done, but only through the conscious activity of sovereign, unpredictable people. Fear is not enough. It will not get us where we need to go. From the most basic facts, we can build a scaffolding of hope. We need to ground ourselves in history and science to take a turn toward a better future. It is all within our reach." When Timothy Snyder asked Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky how he defined freedom, he said, "We all have our own values. Live the truth. Maybe you want to play the guitar. Learn to play the guitar. Start a band." Thank you. Namaste.